to the entertainer talking sports.
What is going on, football fans? Back at it with another New York Giants video. And in this video, I'm going to talk about the Dallas Cowboys' decision to release Jason Garrett. Obviously, this happened late last night, but I wanted to talk about it, and I wanted to talk about the effects that it could potentially have on the New York Giants. One, Jason Garrett is now a candidate that the New York Giants probably will bring in. There were rumors that the Giants could be potentially interested in him, and even though I am not a fan of Jason Garrett, and even though I think it will not happen for the media blowback alone, I think a big reason why we moved on from Shermer in the first place was for the fans. That's my honest opinion. And the fans would not react well to a Jason Garrett signing. I think most fans in the NFL, Giants and Cowboys fans alike, think that this guy's a mediocre coach. He's not a guy that's going to get the fan base, excited. And I think that's what the Giants are trying to do here with this head coaching hire. They're trying to bring back excitement to the New York Giants fan base, being that we've been let down for the last 3 years. So I don't see Jason Garrett coming here, but I wanted to go over his resume. I wanted to go over what the New York Giants may see in this guy to even look at him as a potential hire to be the New York Giants head coach. There are rumors that Mara does like Jason Garrett. So let's take a look at his resume. If you're a guy that just looks at the record, you're going to be attracted to Jason Garrett. If you're a guy that looks at experience, you're going to be attracted to Jason Garrett. You look at the coaches out in the open market, only one has significant head coaching experience, and that is Mike McCarthy. Obviously a much more accomplished coach than Jason Garrett. What's Jason Garrett's attraction? He's a former quarterback. They may look at him as a guy that can mentor Daniel Jones, get him to take that next step forward. Even though I thought Pat did a pretty good job in that department. So if that's what you're primarily looking at, you should have just kept Pat. You look at his record, 85-67. 18 games over 500 over a 10-year stretch. He won a Coach of the Year. And he only had one season in which he finished under 500 with 3 playoff appearances and 2 playoff wins. So if you just look at that, you're going to say, oh my God. 85-67, only one sub-500 season in 10 years. This guy's better than Ron Rivera. Because you look at Ron Rivera's resume, in 9 years, he's 13 games over 500. He only had 3 years in which he was over 500. But you got to look at the circumstances when you judge head coaches. You cannot just look at the record. But people that just look at the record and look at experience, they're going to say, Jason Garrett, quarterback, makes sense. But I think if you put Pat Shurmur in that situation, he's going to do pretty well. I think the Dallas Cowboys, I give them credit for this all the time, they did a fantastic job of drafting and setting Jason Garrett and that team up for success. They built through the trenches. They spent many early round picks on the offensive line. Because of the offensive line was so strong, it led to a better ground game, which made the defense better because you controlled the clock. And that's why the Dallas Cowboys have been as good as they've been, because of their drafting, not because of the head coach. They've been good in spite of their head coach, Jason Garrett. You ask any Cowboys fan, they are not a fan of Jason Garrett. Now, how much say does Jason Garrett have? Who knows? A lot of people think he's a puppet to Jerry Jones. Jerry Jones, of course, has always been in favor of getting more credit, and he wants the coach to carry out what he wants. This year, was it Jason Garrett's decision? I don't know, to shift the offensive philosophy to being a run-dominant team to being a pass-happy team, which was a vital mistake in my opinion. Yes, Dak posted stats. It was more exciting to watch the Cowboys play, but they got away from their strengths. Was that Jones' decision or was it Garrett's? My guess is it was probably Jerry Jones's, but I could be wrong on that. That's why I would not want Jason Garrett. I think he's a mediocre head coach at best. He's not a guy that's going to excite the fan base, and it's why I don't worry much as a Giants fan. They'll probably bring him in for an interview, being that he's qualified. He has experience as a head coach. He's got 10 years experience, and he does have a winning record. So I understand them bringing him in for an interview, but he should not be a guy that they are seriously considering. The other thing I want to talk about is, now that a job has opened up, will that potentially drag some guys that we wanted the New York Giants to be the head coach over to the Dallas Cowboys? You take a look at the Dallas Cowboys situation. They have a good amount of cap space. They're coming off an 8-8 season. They were in the playoffs the year before that. The Giants have not been competitive consistently since their Super Bowl days. So they had 1 year in between with 11-5 when they signed a bunch of free agents. So if you're a head coach, you're looking for stability. Let's look at that as well. The Giants now have gone through 2 coaches over the last 3 years. Jason Garrett's been there for 10 years straight. If Jerry Jones has shown nothing else, he's shown patience in whoever he hires as the head coach. Jason Garrett's been rumored to be on the hot seat now for the last 6-7 years, and Jones is stuck with him. So if I'm a head coach, I'm going to look at the Dallas Cowboys situation and be like, oh, all right. If I go there and screw up for the first couple of years, Jerry Jones is going to stick with me. He's going to give me a real chance. The New York Giants, if I don't work for the first year or two, people are going to be calling for my head. I'm also going to have to deal with the New York media scrutiny. So, could the Dallas Cowboys potentially be a more favorable landing spot for Matt Rule, for someone like that? certainly possible. They have more. They have much more talent on their roster currently. You're stepping into a much better situation year one, no doubt about it. This is a team that has Super Bowl type talent on their roster, in my opinion. They just have not had the proper coaching. So that's what you worry about, that they could potentially take one of our coaches, but they could only take one. And if you take a look around the league right now, there are a lot of good candidates, in my opinion. I think Martindale's a good candidate. I think Rule's a good candidate. I think McCarthy's a solid candidate. I think Bieniemy's a solid candidate. So I think the Giants are still going to end up with a good coach if they choose the right one. It's a question of which one do you favor and which one will end up with Dallas. Obviously, as Giants fans, we don't want the Dallas Cowboys to get a good head coach, because if they do, that team could get real good real fast. The detractor to take the Dallas job, I suppose it would be Dak. If Jerry Jones forces you to keep Dak on long term, if you're a head coach, do you believe that's a guy that could be a $35 million quarterback and you could build a roster around him? That's what you got to look at. But Dallas is definitely an attractive job, and I expect, a very good head coach to potentially take that job because of it. We'll have to wait and see, but the NFC East will definitely be a much different division next year, as 3 of the 4 teams will have new coaches. Let's just hope the Dallas Cowboys coach does not become the New York Giants head coach. Like I said, I don't see that happening. I'd be shocked. The media scrutiny would be beyond belief. But we'll have to wait and see. Jason Garrett now is unemployed, and the Dallas Cowboys will have a new head coach very soon. As always, guys, if you liked what you watched, please subscribe. Drop a comment. Maybe give me a little thumbs up. Cheers.